Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to the press conference. We congratulate with the new year. We wish you all the best in this cold day, winter day, but we are happy you are here. As you know, Kazakhstan takes on presidency in the Security Council for this month, and Ambassador Umarov, our PR, will brief you on the key priorities and the program of work for this month. Then, after his remarks, traditionally, he will take questions from you. So, Ambassador, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to have this opportunity to brief you on the program of work of our presidency. For us, it's a rare occasion, I should say. We're the first Central Asian country to be elected and to be preside over the Security Council. So it's a very serious task for us. But, we would like to, of course, show our best in neutrality, in objectivity, transparency. So I won't repeat these words, but I hope that we can work together on all different issues, and we will try to be as open, as transparent as we can. For us, this morning it was a very good initiative which we started at the Security Council. We did this flag installation ceremony, and I thank everybody from your pool who were present there, who were part of this. We wanted to make it kind of a special event for the new comers to the Security Council, and I hope that it will be taken as a tradition in the future, because I think every country would like to have this kind of dignified entering into the Security Council. So we welcomed our new elected members to the Security Council: Cote d'Ivoire, Equatorial Guinea, Kuwait, the Netherlands, Peru, and Poland. And of course, I just would like to say my high appreciation to the UN protocol, DSS, our friends in DPI, Secretariat, for their great help in arranging and organizing the event. So let me now move to the agenda for our presidency this 2018, and we will be pleased to answer your questions at the end of my introduction. So we have three spotlights on which we would like to focus our attention during our presidency in January. The first one is non-proliferation through the confidence-building measures. Non-proliferation is a Kazakhstan's hallmark in the UN, so we have our first-hand experience on that, and we wanted to talk about this issue. The second highlight is Afghanistan and Central Asia. The third is the Middle East. So let me talk in more detail on these events. So on 18th January, we will hold a high-level thematic briefing on the agenda item non-proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, confidence-building measures. We expect some heads of state and ministers to attend the debate. The briefing will be addressed by my president, Nursultan Nazarbayev. He comes here, and it's actually an indication of high respect that Kazakhstan holds accords to the Council and the United Nations. The thematic briefing will address key relevant non-proliferation issues on the UN agenda through the prism of strengthening confidence-building measures. Why we're taking this theme? Because we think today, we should pay more attention to the building trust and confidence among different political leaders, among countries. Without it, we think none of the issues can be resolved. And this is what I think today we're lacking in the world. So the Secretary General is going to brief the Council and talk about this issue. On the 19th of January, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Kazakhstan, Mr. Kairat will preside over the ministerial level debate on building regional partnership in Afghanistan and Central Asia as a model to link security and development. We are pleased that the Secretary General agreed to be a briefer again. And you know that Secretary General paid a visit to the region. He was there and he has first-hand knowledge and experience of this part of the world. So he can speak clearly on the situation there. As of today, we have received indications from a number of foreign ministers who confirmed their presence during this event. And we're privileged that ministers of foreign affairs of the Central Asia and Afghanistan are planning to attend and speak under Rule 37. Just a few words about why we put that issue on the agenda. You know, Afghanistan is very important for us, for Central Asia. But it's not because of that. But we think that if you paid attention to the theme, it's a model. We use the word model because we think that the conflict areas, we need to look at it kind of from a new perspective. And this new perspective is that first, it should be, you know, security and development nexus, because when you are working on security issues, I think development should go in hand. Then you can create a sustainable security, a sustainable peace in the country. That's why we think that they're very much interlinked, and we should work kind of on both of the issues. Second, it's a regional approach. We think today it's a very important concept because, you know, in most of the areas, the conflict is not born only inside one country, and it cannot be tackled within the boundaries of one country. So it usually takes a region to work on those issues, and you can see the examples all over the world. So the third one is we think that UN should deliver as one, because we think that it's very good when there is more coordination among the UN agencies to work on particular country or region. Then it's better results, more effective work. So this would like to raise during this debate, which we will have on the 19th of January, and would like to use it as a kind of model to work on other regions as well. So we would like, of course, to show that the Central Asian region could become a zone of peace, cooperation, and prosperity through closer collaboration within the UN system and regional organizations to count many challenges facing Afghanistan. And this can be achieved by stronger emphasis on probably development projects in Central Asia and Afghanistan with the support of international community. So this is kind of the view which we would like to talk about and see how we can really proceed on this. On 25th of January, it's another open debate, but it's quarterly debate under the agenda item situation in the Middle East, including the Palestinian question. We're not intending to change the traditional political and humanitarian nature of this debate. Apart from these issues, of course, in our program of work for the month of January, there are peace process in Colombia, reconfiguration debates on UNFICYP, Cyprus, Syria, with political, humanitarian, and chemical tracks. As for Syria, you probably follow the events, and the 8th round of talks were held in Astana on the 21st and 22nd of December, and there are some positive results there, so we hope that the whole process could move in the right direction. The January program contains a heavy focus on Africa, reviewing 7 peacekeeping operations in the region, namely MONUSCA, UNAMID, UNAVAS, MINUSMA, ANSOM, UNSMIL, and UNMISS. And at the end of our presidency on the 31st of January, we will be holding a formal wrap-up session to reflect on the work of the Council during the months and evaluate what we missed or how we worked and what we need to do to improve the work. I know that you have more issues probably to ask me than we have in the program, so I'll try to leave a little bit more time for your questions and answers. So please, the floor is open. We would be more than glad to take your questions.
Please, Olga.
Thank you, Ambassador. My name is Olga Denisova with RIA Novosti News Agency, and on behalf of the United Nations Correspondent Association, we welcome you here and congratulate you with the first presidency of the Security Council of your country. Thanks for having the press conference. I hope to see you more at this takeout. And the question is also about the program. So far, we don't see any scheduled meeting on Iran in the program, but according to what we've just heard from U.S. Ambassador Nikki Haley, there would be one meeting pretty soon. So can you please update us when do you think you're going to schedule the meeting, and what would be the appropriate answer from Security Council on the current situation in Iran?
Can I have more questions and then just take them?
Please, Kaula.
Thank you. Welcome, Ambassador, and Happy New Year. There have been many reports to the Security Council that the sanctions on the DPRK are having a devastating impact on the people. And legally, when someone or an organization is notified that an action is harmful to people, they have a legal requirement to stop that action, or else they become accessories to crimes. And instead of stopping the sanctions, on the 22nd of December, even more lethal sanctions have been imposed. Isn't anyone in the Security Council concerned that they might at some point be indicted for crimes against humanity?
Yeah, thank you. Joseph Klein of Canada Free Press. Just focusing on the briefing on the 16th, the non-proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. Will there be any focus on North Korea as there was last month, or just going to be just more of a general type of discussion? And can you give some examples, at least in your thinking, of what confidence-building measures could be instituted, perhaps using the North Korean crisis as an example? Thank you.
Thank you, Alma. It's Pamela Falk from CBS News. Ambassador, congratulations on the presidency, and we're looking forward to stakeouts. My question is about a follow-up to Olga's on what Ambassador Haley said today. Can you tell us if there are discussions about a Security Council meeting on Iran, and when it might happen, how likely it is, if you think it's the right venue, and if it hasn't come up yet, can you answer that question in your national capacity? Thank you.
Can I just,
Thank you.
Okay, I can take this one and then start answering.
Can I ask?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Please.
thank you. My name is Abdul Hamid Sayam from the Arabic daily Al-Quds Al-Arabi. Mr. Ambassador, you voted for that resolution, which was vetoed by the United States about the declaration of President Trump on Jerusalem. Now, Israel has been emboldened by this decision by the United States. Yesterday, the Likud party decided, at least on the second reading of the law, to annex major parts of the West Bank. What is the responsibility of the Security Council? Is it enough just to vote and there will be a veto and that's it? What can you do to stop this brutal occupation which has been going on for over 50 years? Thank you.
Thank you for those questions. Let me try to answer the ones which have already been aired. Regarding Iran, I just would like to say that, as a president of the Security Council, we will do whatever the Security Council decides. Iran is not in the agenda of the Security Council, but if any member wants to raise this issue and discuss it, of course, we will be ready to work on this. So it depends how the Security Council agrees on that. So at this point of time, I probably can tell you only this. As for...
Just to follow up on that,
yeah.
Has Ambassador Haley approached you? I mean, she mentioned that she's spoken to some Security Council members, and would the presidency of Kazakhstan be opposed to having that meeting within the month? Thank you.
She approached me, and again, it's the right of any country to propose anything if the Security Council agrees to that. So now it's the discussion is going on. I don't know about the particular schedule. I don't know how, when. It's again, as a president of Security Council, I'm in the hands of my colleagues. So we will. As in my national capacity, of course, we very much closely follow the events which are happening in Iran. It's our neighbor, so we just watching it closely. We hope that we urge restraint on all sides, and for them to find a peaceful means to find the way out of the situation. We hope that all the sides will restrain from violence. For us, what is important in any conflict is finding the peaceful means, diplomatic means of solution of any issues. So I think that on our side, we very much stand for restoration of trust and dialogue between the government and the opposition. And we hope that the authorities in Iran could find a way to find the common language with the protesters, and it will be resolved. The situation will be resolved.
But should the Security Council meet on that in your national capacity? It's really difficult to tell you right now. I think we have to follow the events which are going on there. I think that, it's not the events which were, I think, in 2009, when it was big demonstrations. So I think let's wait and see. I repeat, as the president of the Security Council, we would be open to hold any meeting if such a request will be agreed and decided by the Security Council. Next question, it was on DPRK. I probably can answer that issue only in my national capacity. We kind of consider positively the TV address, relatively positively, the TV address of the leader of North Korea, who expressed intention to send the delegation to participate in Winter Olympic Games.
in Pyeongchang. We consider it as a good start for any positive action that will help to avoid further escalation. And I think the main stakeholders should capitalize on this and initiate dialogue and peace negotiations. We, of course, in my national capacity, I should say that we stand for any positive action which could help to avoid further escalation of the situation there. However, it is, of course, disturbing that North Korea remains firm in its intention to continue improving its nuclear missile capabilities. We would like, of course, to see the opposite, because any crisis situation could be resolved through peaceful means, and we think that diplomacy should lead and actually help to have a verifiable denuclearization of Korean Peninsula. As for the humanitarian side of the issue, we are very much concerned, of course, about the impact of any sanctions against the wider public. And in Security Council, we all the time were speaking, I mean, in my national capacity, we were all the time speaking for having smart sanctions which could really do not affect the general population, general public, but will be very specifically targeted. And the last resolution, we think, was actually aiming at that, and we supported that resolution. There was a question about non-proliferation through confidence building. It won't be country-specific briefing. It will be more of a general character because, we of course, I'm sure that North Korea will probably be one of the subjects for the discussion, but I think that, we have to talk today on more general terms because we have other countries, threshold countries, which are willing to get the nuclear capabilities because of the very tense international situation. And why confidence building measures? Because we think that you can have many treaties, but if you don't have trust, you don't implement them. Or if you have trust, then you don't need even an agreement. You can do it, on a gentleman agreement on that. So we have this kind of approach. So we think that it's very important today to have political will on the side of different governments, leaders, to tackle the international issues. Examples, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, you probably heard of it, you know this. I don't know whether you know or not how this organization started. It started among the Central Asian countries and China, when we have the borders which were not delimited. It was still an open question at the beginning of our independence. Then it was a decision taken that we have to take the troops 100 kilometers out of the border of each country and notify each other when any military exercises or anything else would be taking place in that particular area between the borders. And from that moment, actually Shanghai Cooperation Organization started to exist. And today it's not only a good international organization which has its own agenda, but it diversified. Now it's a cultural, it's educational, it's economic, it's different other aspects which were added to that. Meaning that if you start something like this, when you start building confidence, you can expand this relationship into many other areas, and it could be a successful example. Probably it's, as for the North Korea, Kazakhstan is a good example. for North Korea to follow. We abandoned our nuclear weapons. We closed the nuclear testing site. We declared ourselves a non-nuclear state. Today we work with our regional partners, and we created the nuclear weapon-free zone in Central Asia. So it's a lot which we are doing in that particular sphere, and we are not threatened by anyone. We are paying more attention to the economic development, and all this burden, military burden, defensive burden. There's a lot of spending which we could have. It's not there. We spend more financial resources to build our country economically. So we think that this could be followed by North Korea. I know that they have some arguments about Libya, example, some other countries. But I'm sure that probably Russia and China will not allow this happening for this kind of developments. So there are good conditions not to have anything, bad happening in that area. So that's our
Will North Korea come to the meeting?
Sorry? Okay. Since it's not country-specific, we are not inviting any country to have a debate. It's a briefing. Our president will come to brief the Security Council about our examples, about our ideas, how we can work on non-proliferation issues through the confidence-building measures. We have even a big organization right now, international organization, which is called Confidence-Building Measures in Asia. It's a conference on confidence-building measures in Asia, and it's 26 countries which are part of it, including Israel and Palestine, including India and Pakistan, and some other countries. So we try to implement that through our own policies. So it's not country-specific. We are not inviting. We think that if within the Security Council we have a clear understanding that we need to have confidence-building measures working, I think it will improve the overall situation in general. Let me say like this. And Jerusalem. On Jerusalem, our position, our national. Again, I'll be speaking my national capacity more here. Our position on Middle East peace process remains unchanged. We support negotiations resulting in two-state solution and stand for the early resumption, especially in the bilateral format and without any preconditions. So we think that the final status issue must be resolved through direct negotiations between the parties, on the basis of relevant Security Council and General Assembly resolutions. We have all of them indicating that. I think that this kind of a problem should not be considered as a kind of, someone loses, someone wins. I think it's the issue which should be respected by all the sides, and all the sides should really play their own make their own contributions to that. And our position is very clear on this. We think that we, on the first place, think about the consequences of any actions like that. And the consequences could be very serious ones. So that's why we continue to hold the same position. We have the same view of that. So that's how we see it, and how we will act on this in national capacity. Any other questions, please? I think I
We have a
answered.
couple of questions.
Yes. In your national capacity on another neighbor of yours, which is Pakistan. The U.S. is raising some issues as to the U.S. support of Pakistan. Do you think it's good for the neighborhood, bad for the neighborhood? What's Kazakhstan's view of it?
Again, in my national capacity, I can say that Pakistan is a regional neighbor to Afghanistan and Central Asia. We think today that, again, only peaceful means, diplomatic means should prevail. The more engagement could be among the countries, and not only on political, but economic and other areas could happen, the situation could really improve. That's why when we have this debate on Afghanistan and Central Asia, we would like to talk about this. We would like to speak about security and development, because we think when the development comes, when countries start building the commercial relations among them, things start improving. If you are a serious businessman, if you are thinking about being rich, you never think about conflict or war. You prefer peaceful conditions for you to prosper. That's why our position is that we think that, we should look at the situation a little bit in a different focus. We should work on security and development side by side, helping each other and bringing a solution to sometimes very complicated issues.
So you're not happy about the U.S. cutting aid?
Really, I cannot comment on that, even in my national capacity. I think that you have to pose that issue, this question to our American or Pakistan colleagues. They will be more kind of open to that, to answer that. As for us, we just have this kind of position, this kind of view on that.
Yeah, thank you, Nizar Aboud of Al Mayadeen Television in Lebanon. There is no bigger humanitarian crisis and human rights crisis in the world bigger than Yemen. The starvation in Yemen is going on unabated. All calls by Security Council were ignored totally. The aid is not flowing as we were promised. And in the recent days, we've seen regular systematic massacres in marketplaces, in petrol stations. However, we did not hear anything from the United Nations. Why is the silence? And why we don't see any program to meet about Yemen, given the dire situation there?
Thank you for raising this issue. Actually, we have this issue in our footnotes. Why in footnotes? You can ask why not in kind of program of work. We think it's a very important issue, but we have this cyclical kind of return to that issues. And as for Yemen, it's we consider that in the Security Council by monthly level. So next time we will look at that. It will be in February. It will be in the program of work. But we have it in footnote because if situation is further deteriorated and one of the countries would like to raise it, we all the time have it we all the time ready to start talking about this in the main program. But since it is, it was considered in December, now next time it should be on the agenda in February, so we kind of missing this part, but we have it in footnotes. If something happens, we of course will.
But how worse can it go? I mean, the current situation is bad enough. Was there any other crisis in the world?
I know this. That's why I'm saying that in case any country will raise it, we are ready to consider it.
Will you raise it in the Security Council?
Not at this point of time, because for putting it into the agenda, I think we need the consensus of all the rest of the members. At this point of time, we all agreed that let's put it into footnotes and see if there are further developments on that issue. Then we will pick it up as a issue during our program of work.
Is there any indication that the Secretary General will raise it? Because among the UN staff, there's been a lot of reports that, in fact, there's the basis of famine there, and that the blockade is keeping the UN activities from functioning. So have you heard from the Secretary General at all?
I haven't heard from Secretary General about his intention to put it into the program of work. We met, but again, I think the situation is very fluid. I mean, it could go offhand very quickly. We are very much concerned about it. We are ready to discuss it, but as soon as Security Council finds that the Secretary General's role involvement could be crucial in that, the recommendation will follow. At this point of time, we don't have such a proposal on the table, so we're not discussing it this way. But it doesn't mean that the question is not so critical or serious that we're not putting it to the program. We just, every month we have a big load of issues to consider, and we try to kind of be rational, trying to focus on the issues which are recurring, trying to resolve them as well. But any issue can arise, and we can work on it.
Evelyn Leopold,
yes.
Huffington Post contributor. I'd like to switch to Syria. They're still fighting. There's still problems getting humanitarian aid through. There might even be problems with chemical weapons now that the gym is dead, and there have been some medical evacuations. Do you intend to discuss this, and is there any appetite for putting pressure on Damascus, whether it is talks or allowing the aid groups to give humanitarian shelter?
As for Syria, of course, we are going to have 3 tracks to discuss this issue. And, the issue is not a simple one, of course, and you yourself understand it, because there are very difficult situation on the ground, and we need to work. But anyway, we think that there is a progress. At least during this Astana process, there was already a working group formed to work on humanitarian issues like detainees, exchange of detainees, transfer of the dead, and on missing people. So we try to work on that front, and we try to work with our Syrian colleagues to make happen, gradual improvement on that issues. As for chemical, we are going to look at this issue during the 9th of January. There will be consultations on chemical weapons in Syria, and High Representative Nakamitsu will be reporting. On chemical weapons, we just wait for, the rest, another 2 facilities need to be eliminated. That should be verified by the OPC Technical Secretariat as having been destroyed. We will look into that issue very attentively, and it's quite an issue on that. As for Jim, I don't think that it's plausible right now to talk about Jim. It's already decided. The other question, what will come next? And for what will come next, I think the countries, the main stakeholders, should really agree on this, and we need to start working on that. Without the consensus, nothing could work. But as for our national position, that investigative mechanism is necessary, we are for that. We would like to see it working, maybe under different conditions. We are ready to pick it up. We are ready to work on it. The question is on what mechanism we can agree upon. But this work if under our presidency this kind of discussions will start, we are ready to facilitate.
We have the last question because Ambassador has another meeting. Please, Manik.
Manik Mehta, syndicated journalist. Climate change was not discussed at all. Is this going to be one of your priorities during your presidency, given the fact that Kazakhstan has been emphasizing a lot? And lastly, at the Expo exhibition you had, energy and clean air and environmental protection were the hallmarks of this event. So, how important is this for your presidency?
For us, climate change is very important, and it's one of the issues why we are trying to look at it, but not probably as a sole issue. I mean, as a separate issue, but as part of our discussions about the situation in Afghanistan and Central Asia, because climate change is also a big issue for us in the region. And we think that climate change is very much linked to human activity, human beings' activities, and it's a regional matter as well. It's not, you cannot just resolve the issue within your own country and just be happy about it. So, especially in Central Asia and Afghanistan area, it's a water issue. It's melting glaciers. It's a changing climate, and for us it's a big issue. But we're not taking it solely. We would like to keep it as one of the items in a comprehensive approach, holistic approach, when we come to the problems of the region.
But could you provide a push to the climate change agreement?
Absolutely. We very much, in our national capacity, we're very much for working on that issues. We had Expo 2017, which was devoted to future energy, and the future energy meaning green energy, less pollution. And we, especially, it was more than 100 countries who participated with their technologies in that particular sphere. It was done to talk to wide number of countries for them to look at the new technologies, probably take something for their own internal consumption. That was the goal of Expo. After the Expo now, we are working on the Center of Green Technologies in Astana, on the place where we had Expo exhibition, in order to, to further give push to green technologies. And we are right now in discussion, probably bringing some developing countries to us and just working on this green technologies, spreading the experience which we have in that area. Kazakhstan has abundant resources. Natural resources, oil and gas. Probably another 100 years we don't need to develop green technologies. But we think kind of into the future. We will look into the future, and we want to start this work today. And we are working on it today. It's a lot of legislation which is being changed. It's a lot of regional initiatives which we're taking, and Paris Agreement is very close to our heart. We are very much supporting it, and all the initiatives which we have, it goes within this kind of approach.
On the DRC, has anyone asked for a statement on the DRC,
Myanmar.
on the crackdown all weekend?
Okay, let's just have another...
One question on
One more
Myanmar.
question
Okay.
On Myanmar.
Myanmar.
Yes. The special rapporteur on sexual violence in armed conflict came to this room, sir, and she spoke about raping thousands of women in Myanmar. The Human Rights Commissioner said what happened in Myanmar is a textbook ethnic cleansing and genocide. However, the Security Council had failed Myanmar. No resolution had been adopted. only 2 meetings were held. One is a closed consultation and no fact-finding mission. And why is that? Isn't that a disseminal failure on the part of the Security Council to fail the people of the Rohingya people in Myanmar? Thank you.
I should say that this Myanmar issue is very high on the agenda of the Security Council. We started to paying attention immediately when the situation started deteriorating. We understand it's a very complicated and very dangerous development which is taking place there. The Security Council immediately had an AOB first, then it was open discussion, and it was Mr. Feldman visit to Myanmar. So we just try to work proactively. As a member of Organization of Islamic Conference, we have been concerned about this issue a long time ago. We were looking at the situation and warning at that time. But now it takes a different turn. It's a more radical turn. And it's not something which we are missing. Myanmar is in the footnotes of the program, meaning that it could be raised anytime in our program of work. But at this time, we, in my national capacity, I should say, we warmly welcomed the memorandum which was achieved between Bangladesh and Myanmar quite recently in December on the conditions how the refugees can be brought back. We very much hope that that memorandum will be followed, will be implemented. So we are waiting for more actions on the side of the government of Myanmar. If if tangible results will not be achieved, of course, I'm sure that Security Council will be talking about it. As for the mission to Myanmar, it's also under consideration. I probably cannot tell you more of that, but it's also one of the options which are being considered within the Security Council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
See you next week. Thank you.